goes, energy flows. So if we constantly say, I'm scared of putting fat on my hips, I'm scared of putting fat on my hips, I'm scared of putting fat on my hips, it's not like the fat is magically going to appear. But it's your relationship to food then is, how am I viewing this? Oh, I'm scared. And if you think that your body doesn't respond to your words,
it absolutely
does. And if it doesn't respond, if it responds to your words, it's responding to your thoughts. If your thoughts say that is bad, that's good, then it's saying if I eat that, I'm bad. If I eat that, I'm good.
I'm Dr Skye Scott from Health with Heart, and this podcast is a celebration of the purpose, capacity, and magic of the human body and its ability to heal and take us to new places. Join me on a journey exploring new aspects of medicine and healing for our collective well-being.
With heart, with Dr. Skye.
Welcome to another episode of Health with Heart with me, Skye. I am so excited to be recording with video in our beautiful makeshift studio for the first time with the lovely Erin van Schoor.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Such a pleasure. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and why we're going to have this conversation today.
That is always such a loaded question to ask who someone is. So as I was driving here thinking how to best describe it, I thought I'm going to do it in the context of why it's important for your listeners, I presume, and the people interested in this kind of alternative health or just health in general. And that is that I'm someone who, like many of us, found herself stuck in a health crisis, if you can call it that, at a really young age, struggling from strange things like migraines and unexplained seizures that the doctor still to this day couldn't really explain what was happening, when I would just short circuit and be walking in a mall and black out, or be really stressed and overwhelmed. So I figured out that that's a trigger, and then kind of turn into these convulsions and shakes, and then I would fall down, and then I would spend 4 hours completely confused and then wake up kind of...
So you were having a proper grand mal tonic-clonic seizure?
Let's call it that, yeah.
Yes. Wow.
Sometimes just in class.
And how old were you when that started?
Grade 9 was when I really started noticing it.
Gee whiz. And what was the response? Were you put on medication?
Yeah, so the first thing is obviously a bunch of tests. The first really bad one that I remember was before my science exam. And that was obviously a very triggering, stressful environment. And I remember going to just feeling really nauseous. So I went and started vomiting and was vomiting. And then my dad was like, "Wait, something might be wrong." And then he came in and I looked at him and I said, "Dad, I can't feel the left side of my face." And then he was like, "That's a strange thing." And then thought, didn't want to make too big of a deal of it. And he's like, "I think we should just take you to see a doctor before your exam." And as I stood up, I was just really leaning to one side, and the whole left side of my body started to go numb. And my dad eventually had to carry me to the car because I was just kind of conking off into one side. And this was my grade 9 year that I realized, okay, something weird is up. And this continued. They tried a whole bunch of different anti-epilepsy medications. They did all the EEGs and MRIs, yeah, the full thing. And they said something's strange, but they couldn't tell what. And there's no reason why I should be having these episodes. And there was no pattern to it that they could recognize, that the doctors could recognize. And then they thought maybe it's hormonal because I hadn't started my period yet. And they thought maybe it's something to do with that. But then the doctor just said, "Oh, just put her on a pill," which I loved. And then we decided we wanted to try some alternatives. Then I tried the anti-epileptic medications, and they actually just made me lose my personality. And they also told me, by the time I was 18, you're not going to be able to drive with these medications. And so you just feel numb and really kind of in and out of body experience the whole time when you're on those medications. I don't know if other people find that.
So I think also many psychiatric medicines can have a blunting effect on how you feel emotion. But at the same time, there are newer ones that are less intrusive and can, in about half of cases, actually achieve seizure control. So yeah, I think always with medicine, it's just about the benefits versus the risks and what the payoff is and if it's worth it. Okay, so fast forward a little bit, and then what happened?
Yeah, so I decided I can't just be helpless in my health. I have to become a partner in my health. So I started doing my own research. And then I was quite prone to fad diets, but I did research this. I had taken too much ADHD medication one night studying for my psychology exam. This is university time. So I stayed up all night. I used to love staying up and cramming. And now my exam was finished, but I still had to stay up, all night because this medication would not let me fall asleep. And I went down this rabbit hole of veganism. And I was like, okay, it's because the things that people claim, anything will do, any new drug, any new diet, it's crazy. So it was claiming it would cure anything from seizures.
I have seen there's a documentary on Netflix, I can't remember what it's called, that's all about plant-based diets and
There's
reversing
quite a
disease.
few. I wonder, it might be Game Changers, might be What the Hell.
I can't remember. Maybe it was What the Hell. I watched it a long time ago.
But yeah, so there were some really big claims. So I went down this rabbit hole and I woke up the next day in my house of 9 women and I announced to all of them I'm going vegan. And as crazy as that sounded, once I do decide something, I really decided. And within 6 months, I had my last ever seizure.
Seriously?
And still to this day, I haven't had another one. And that's why I haven't gone back. That's why I've been 10 years on a plant-based diet. Obviously, the diet that I took then, which was 10 banana smoothies, and the second day that I announced, my roommate and my best friend is actually my maid of honor, said she'll never forget, I came with a half a watermelon, and I sat there and I just munched this half a watermelon because I was already so hungry because I didn't really understand nutrition at the time. So I just thought I was just, shovel it down, and had 10 bananas and 5 dates. That was my smoothie in the morning. It was like a whole liter that I would sit there and chug because I was following some crazy influencer, Freely the Banana Girl, at the time. But even doing all of those incorrect things, even probably sending my blood sugar into a crazy frenzy, I still managed to have the last ever seizure. Went off all of the medications. They were saying, oh, maybe you just have like migraines with an aura. Like they diagnosed all kinds of things and was off of everything within 6 months.
And you don't get headaches and you don't have any episodes of any kind anymore?
No. And a lot of things, like strange things, like whenever I go to a massage, they're like, wow, you must get such bad headaches from your traps. And I'm like, no. No headaches, and my mum still suffers from such severe migraines. It's like it's even in my family, and I'm the only one that doesn't suffer from them.
How interesting. I think we might need to insert a small disclaimer here that veganism is not the answer to all medical conditions.
And I'm definitely not the vegan that and the vegan. Even working as a nutritionist, I don't advocate for most people to go vegan. I think it's a restrictive. Anything that's restrictive, paleo, keto, they all have restrictions to them. And I think unless you are very dedicated to your health, which, a nutritionist generally is, or very dedicated to a cause for a certain time, if you're trying to heal from something, I don't recommend it for other people.
I totally agree with you. I think that there's a time and a place for very restrictive and extreme things in specific circumstances, but it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all. Did you go on from that experience to study nutrition?
Yes.
Okay.
So at the time I was studying educational psychology, and this was my second year university. And by my last year university, I was just flabbergasted by what the human body could do. My entire body had changed. And I'd also suddenly went from falling asleep in lectures, and I used to eat a chocolate bar every single day from the dining hall. So you can understand that it's not necessarily the diet. It's not veganism or keto or paleo. All of those diets do the same thing. They take away access to highly processed foods. Take that out of your diet, you're going to see phenomenal results. And so, of course, I did. Suddenly I had energy to exercise, my skin cleared, my hair grew, my nails were stronger. And I was like, what else is possible from... So many people don't correlate that what goes in is what makes the outside. Now it seems basic to me, but I still find for so many that's a beautiful discovery to start with. And so, by my 4th year, I was like, actually, I'm sitting giving my final teaching pracs to finish this degree, and I'm already ready to start studying something else. So while I was invigilating, in all of my free time, I'd be marking and doing my nutrition modules. And by the time I went to Korea to go and pay off my student loans, and I thought I'll just use this time to work really hard to pay off, but also finish my studies. And I landed up finishing my studies while I was in Korea.
The truth is that you are a teacher.
Yes.
So it's a perfect synergy of your skill set.
And I always knew I would be. I just realized I wasn't going to be particularly children.
Large children.
Yes, large children. And I studied FET, which is 10 to 12 anyway. I definitely didn't want the little ones. And now I'm like, adults, yes, that's what I want.
So I think that it's such a loaded space body shape and body shame, and even the word fat is loaded. And I think that it's very unusual for you to meet women, especially, who have not had some dalliance with a fad diet or some binging or starving or a little vomit here or there. And I think that we're in an interesting moment with this, because sort of I feel like my generation and your generation are experiencing this movement or the response to this differently. Do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Absolutely. This is a strange time because we are on the precipice of coming out of my mum's era, which was very diet culture. And that was the low fat, that was the pretty much low everything. We've had a low carb, we've had a low everything. And it was measuring everything. As far as I can remember, I was in that understanding of food. And then I also jumped into bodybuilding and then had a different understanding of food. And so that was the era. Everybody was bodybuilding when I was in my university era, everyone like in the health scene. And now we're on the complete other side of the spectrum, where there's been a beautiful body positivity movement. But I think there's a very big difference between body positivity, accepting your body where it is, and acknowledging that you still want to be better. You still want to work for improvement in your overall health stats, in how you feel and how you look. I think it's kind of shameful these days to say, I want to look better. And so women will come to me and they'll come to the exercise class and they say, oh, I just want to actually be strong. And then I'm like, okay, I can make you strong. And along the way, can we also maybe lose some weight? And they kind of want to say that with a bit of and I'm like, of course you can. Of course you can want to feel better, feel lighter, because let's be honest, then you can pull up more if you are a little bit lighter weight. And the truth is that I've not met anyone, not a single woman I've ever worked with, that doesn't have this absolutely ingrained in their brain that smaller equals
better,
more important. Smaller equals more valuable. I mean, women are we not inherently valued based on how we look, how little space we can take up?
I hope that's changing. I mean, I think that is changing. We're talking about the shame that women feel around owning that they want to feel attractive, or feel strong, or be thinner.
And a lot of what I tell women I say, you are not going to look like me or like whoever you are looking at, because that's never been the goal. The goal is to look like a version of yourself. And so it sounds strange, but you're trying to close your eyes and be like, what is the most me I've ever felt in my body? And it's not usually an appearance thing. It's a time in their life where they respected themselves enough to uphold a certain amount of standards for themselves. And that's what I'm really working for women, is to change this idea of discipline and strict and restrict, because restrict is what causes the binge. Everyone thinks I have a willpower problem, I have lack of discipline, and I can promise you that it is not that. If you undereat, it will lead to overeating every single time. Your body will always take over. Your body is so divinely intelligent. Stop kidding yourself. You cannot restrict yourself into the life that you want because you don't want to live a restrictive life.
So the conversation then begins, because I think that almost all of us, and I feel like I have this conversation with myself often, I sort of go in and out of feeling like I have a sense of a locus of control, and I'm eating well and I'm not restricting and I'm not binging and I'm feeling good in my body, and then something will derail me, whatever that might be, maybe exhaustion or overstimulation, or I don't know, just a fabulous feast, and I'll put on a kilo or two and lose my locus of control, and then I'll be in this kind of spiral of eating and starving and being on track and not being on track and calorie counting and not calorie counting, and it can be quite consuming. And something I'm so mindful of, I've got 3 little girls, and I know that when I talk to my contemporaries about this, that we all have these conversations about what impact our subliminal messaging is having on our daughters and what we're projecting onto them with things that we don't even say. And so let's talk the listeners through where to begin. I love this idea of envisaging yourself at a prime moment where you feel beautiful and where you feel empowered. Once you've held that image in mind, What
What's
next?
next? Firstly, that experience that you have, I hope that every woman that listened to that can feel so comforted hearing that little bit of light shone, because that's where all the shame lies. I promise you, everybody, every woman has felt that way. I'm yet to meet someone that doesn't. I would love someone to comment and say that they haven't felt that way. But for 99.9% of the women, that's what it is. We are pendulum swinging from I am good, I am in control, I am empowered, and I am on the other side of things. I am a mess. No one look at me. I don't want to get out of bed. It just swings. And so let's take that back. You are in this space where you have envisioned yourself in this time where you are healthy and strong, and I don't want you to see as much. I want you to look at the lifestyle that you had. And of course then it comes back to habits. What were your habits at the time? But then the same thing, right? When everything's going really well, all those habits are thriving, and when everything goes really badly, all those habits go to rubbish. And so where's that in between line? And that's where I take this idea of mindset. I take it outside of rules and I take it back to standards, because there are, the best example that I always give is there's the standard of I do not raise my voice at Ali, at my husband, now husband. And it's something that my parents have ingrained in me. It would just, my whole body would feel wrong if I raised my voice at him. And even if I did, it's such a thing that's such an ingrained standard in me that immediately I would turn back and I would say, wow, that was a weird out of body experience. And even he would say that was weird. That's not you at all. And that's the kind of relationship that we start to build with our body. So the reality is it's very slow. First, you are putting yourself in this mindset of that's how I felt. That's kind of how my life looked in terms of my habits. So you can draw yourself a little bit of a mind map. These are the kinds of things I was doing. Then I want you to look at all of those things and I want you to halve them. So hopefully there were 10 things you were doing. Now there's 5 things you're doing. Because when you're at your lowest point, there's no chance you're going to be operating from this higher thinking self. And I want you to say, okay, so from those 5, what 2 seem like the things that move the needle? So let's do that with you. If you, in your, optimal state, you have probably 10 things you're doing. You're drinking your water, you're sleeping well, you're taking your supplements. Halve those and think to yourself, okay, now I'm going to take what feels like the most impactful 5, and I'm going to think of just 2. The 2 most impactful things for you, where, for example, exercise is a great one for most people. If I exercise first thing in the morning, I naturally find myself eating a bit better. I naturally find myself a little bit more thirsty. So do you have 2 standards that you can think probably move the needle for you?
So exercise is an easy one for me because I can't live without it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a standard that I never argue with. Sugar and refined carbs are where my problems lie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then we're not going to touch that one just yet.
Okay.
Because I think that's a down, do you know what I mean? That's like at the bottom of the stairs.
You mean like a principle?
Yeah, well, I mean that's going to be a happy outcome, is that you're not going to want to eat the carbs and the sugar because you're going to be in such relation with yourself that you're going to know how you feel afterwards. And the whole game, my whole thing for women is to live awake, live conscious. So that if you have those carbs, but what we usually do is we numb ourselves so much beforehand with alcohol or drugs or whatever your choice is, that you actually scoff the carbs down and you don't taste them when you're not in a good state. Am I kind of on the right cue here?
Gee whiz, I think I enjoy them while I'm eating them. But while I'm eating them, I'm thinking, why am I doing this? I know I'm going to be upset about it later.
So yours comes a little bit higher up the ladder.
Mm.
Okay, let's try one more. So let's say exercise is your one standard. You always uphold that standard for yourself. Mm-hmm. Can you give yourself another standard?
I don't drink.
Okay, alcohol?
I try to get enough sleep.
Okay, so let's do, because how long have you been no alcohol?
Long.
Okay, so that's quite an easy one.
That's also easy.
So let's say that you are going to focus on, and the exercise also quite an easy one for you. So let's do sleep, and can you give me one other one? And then I'll show you how it ties in.
Better self-talk.
Okay.
Does that work?
Then we're going to make that quite practical. Okay. So you have envisioned this ideal side of yourself, and you realize that she is doing 100 things. And in that state, you feel amazing because you are doing so much. But that comes from a place of, then am I not enough when I'm not doing all of those things? And why am I not showing up in the way that I would like to when I'm doing all of those things? And it actually comes down to who you're looking at in the mirror and the relationship that you have with that person. And so you say that you're just going to uphold these two standards, how you talk to yourself. And when we take things out of rules and into standards, I say we take it out of discipline and into devotion. And just feel how those two words feel different to you.
So beautiful.
So different. And if you're going to say, I want to make this a practice of devotion, how am I going to put that really practically? Because most people are going to say, I'm just going to restrict my calories to 1,000 per day. And we can already see how that's going to spiral and not be something that you can do consistently. But how can you consistently interrupt the negative self-talk? What's something we can do for that?
I could reframe it and say something kind.
Okay, so most of the day you're really busy. So the thing is that in order for us to even start it, we'd have to start a practice even smaller than that. And that would come back to maybe a morning, something you do in the morning. And you can, for example, be sitting in meditation or whatever it is that you do. And this is going to be different for everyone, but this is just your particular practice now. Mm-hmm. And you're going to sit, and you're a very busy woman. And so you're going to sit and you're going to see 3 times that you most commonly see yourself slipping up in terms of negative self-talk. So for me, that would be before meals, because I have a little bit of food anxiety, even still doing this work after all these years. And so I see myself before my 3 meals, and I can already see the kind of words that I say, because I say them so often to myself that they're very normal, but I want them to not be normal. I want to always catch myself seeing them. And so you're going to see yourself, that thing coming up, and you're going to open your eyes and say, change. Okay, what am I going to change them to? Reframe them. Okay, that's what I'm going to be thinking there. And you go back into, and then you're going to see yourself before lunch, and what kind of thought? Oh, I'm a fat pig. Change. That's not what we think there. And you see how you're actually practicing, because a lot of, the beauty of manifestation is that you want to put yourself in the right state and you just want to dream yourself there. But I actually think what would be far more helpful is if you visualize yourself making the mistakes and how you're correcting from the mistakes. Because it's not about the spiral. We're all going to spiral. It's how quickly can you get yourself out of it? How quickly can you turn over? So once you're eating the carbs, can you enjoy the carbs and then afterwards take a walk and still show up like someone who loves herself and eat like someone who loves herself? That's the real question. Do you think you are even someone who is worthy of loving herself in that way, of taking herself for a walk after she eats carbs, or are you just saying you're bad?
Not bad. Change.
I
love that. Change.
And so that would be, for example, your first 2 steps that you might do. But for everyone, it's going to look very different. It's going to say, we need to find what are the first 2 things that we can make. So for example, I'll have like a 6 to 12 week protocol with someone where you're only making 2 changes at a time, because so much of our life is an overhaul. And how are you going to put the body in a calm, regulated system or state if we are just bombarding changes at you? And in 4 weeks, you can do anything for 4 weeks, but can you show up consistently for me for 6 weeks and for 8 and for 12? The answer is hopefully no, because I want to catch you at your lowest. I want to catch you before your period. And then I want to say, now let's look at that talk. Now let's see, what is the most loving version of your lowest self? That's where it comes back. And now we can start to say, okay, if I had to take all of these layers off of my most high self and my most low self, who's kind of there in the middle? Who is that observer? And how can I stay connected to her? And what are the habits and rituals, I call them anchoring rituals, that can keep me connected to her as much as possible?
Tell us about your anchoring rituals.
My anchoring rituals? Well, I have some strange ones.
Tell us everything.
I have a very strange glass that feels very wonky in my hands, and hydration became one of my anchoring rituals, because I'm very bingy, so I like to have something snackish the whole time. And so I thought, what if I just had a strange feeling glass, and every time I took a sip from this glass that I only use at home when I'm working from a little home office and it feels very squonky, what if this could just remind me that I am hydrating, I'm nourishing all of my cells. And I just take that little quiet moment to drink that first sip of water, because that's the thing, it's not all the time. We're busy people. We don't have time to have all of these anchoring rituals. But there's something about that first sip of the day, for example. Another one is we all wake up stiff and a little bit cranky. But I will go outside and I'll say, I'm going to choose to move my body first thing. And it's not some big complicated routine. It's literally like body shakes and arm swings and just something with my face in the sun and my feet on the ground. And it will take me 5 minutes. That's another really anchoring ritual for me. Sometimes it can be a really long hug. That's a really beautiful grounding ritual. Certain flavors, I'm very attached to certain flavors. And so green tea, green mint tea particularly, that'll be like, Erin, you're choosing yourself. And these are associations that we've made, you know.
Yes, and I can hear how you just keep reinforcing those little associations so that throughout your day you've got these little moments that catch and support you.
An everything shower, that has been that's such a strange one for people, but it's such a beautiful thing that even after you've had the worst binge that you've had maybe in 5 years and you've maybe even purged, let's be honest, this is still happening for so many women. Can you pick yourself up enough just to go and turn that shower on? To go and stand there, and even if it's you sitting, saying, why am I here again? Sitting on the floor of the shower, and you are feeling this water rushing over. Can you feel the water rushing away, those old beliefs? You can say, I'm not that person anymore, because that old person wouldn't be in that shower. And I'm the woman in the shower. And you wash your hair with love. And afterwards, even though you hate how bloated your belly is, you are taking this beautiful body oil and you're rubbing it and you say, I love you, belly. I love your arms for all the hugs you're going to give. I love your legs for the places you carry me. And it seems so ridiculous to someone that hasn't suffered from a disordered eating pattern. But to be able to do that when you hate yourself, that's telling me that you are switching into a mind of devotion over discipline. Because discipline is punishment. Devotion is I love myself enough to see myself in the ugly, to look at myself in the mirror and say, Erin, I don't like how you showed up today. But I'm not going to change tomorrow or on Monday. I hate that. In the new month, right now. You switch it right now. Change. And you go and you do it.
I think Mary Oliver said the beginning of attention is devotion. So beautiful. I love that word, devotion. You know, this purging story is something that women don't talk about. They don't talk about it with one another. Very occasionally in my office, somebody will tell me that they're purging and that nobody knows. Their partner doesn't know, their children don't know. And it's the kind of thing that you can do so secretly. Yeah, which means that all that shame is just carried alone. Yeah.
And I can see as someone who's been there, I can see why it's attractive. Imagine you have an eraser. You have a 30-minute window, because having someone that's had this, you know, disordered eating mind, I'm like, I have 30 minutes to undo all of the bad that I've just done. Because I'm seeing myself as bad for eating, for nourishing. So now I can see the problems in that line of thinking. But for women to understand, you're not crazy for wanting to undo what feels like a wrongdoing in a society that's constantly reinforcing that you are valued for your appearance, that you are valued for being small. Because the reality is, when you have lost a bit of weight, then someone will say, oh, you're looking so great. Oh my God, what are you doing? Tell me the secrets. Purging. You must try it.
Oh gosh.
When in reality, there are other ways, but the other ways require changing your entire relationship to yourself. Putting a stake in the ground and saying, this is the last time. Not the last time I'm going to purge, not the last time I'm going to abandon myself. Because the purging might happen again. The binging might happen again. But am I going to abandon myself again? No. And it really is. Everybody says, you know, the exercise regime sticks. I've tried this 100 times and it hasn't stuck. And I say it doesn't stick until it sticks. So you make it stick. Going. Like everyone asks me about marriage. Are things different after you've gotten married? I was like, things are different if you make it different. And I know that's, you know, it's so easy to say from the empowered side of things. And when you are in the thick of things, in the real swirl. And that's why you reach out to people. That's why you have someone who can sit there in the stuck with you and hold your hand and say, I see you. It's terrifying and it's awful, but you don't have to do it alone. And I'm going to make sure that you show up tomorrow in whatever small way that might be. Or walk around the block, 2 glasses of water, as small as that.
It's so interesting though how easily we apply standards to other areas of our lives. And maybe because this is a contract that you just have with yourself, that doesn't really impact anybody else. It's a breeding ground for abandonment. Do you know what I mean? If you abandon in your marriage, you're held accountable.
Yes.
There's a mirror.
If you're late for work, like,
Yes, you're held
there's
exactly. You're held accountable by others, and so yeah, this idea of reclaiming and not abandoning yourself is such a beautiful one.
and what I wish women would understand is that it is the puzzle piece that will have you not abandon any other area of your life. I think we see ourselves, the whole selfless movement, which was very much my parents' era, where I see selfless as no self. And I want to be so full of myself, so aware of myself, that in any given moment I can say, oh, I'm acting as someone else, or I'm not acting out of my highest self. Obviously, you're not that aware all the time, but it's just this constant game, this constant practice, this constant falling in love with the different versions of yourself.
And with presence.
And if you can get this, quote unquote, right, if you can practice this more regularly, it will impact every other part of your life. It is the most important relationship you will ever work on, is your relationship to body and self. Think about the amount of time and energy we waste in our brains, just obsessing over what we eat and how we look, and walking past the mirror and skin grabbing. It's exhausting.
It's also the other thing that I sometimes reflect on is it's so paradoxical because you are not your body.
Yeah.
Yes, you experience the world through your body, and your risk for disease is experienced through your body, and your habits narrate the way that you experience the world. But there's also this dissonance because you are so much more than your body. And yes, and sort of turning your gaze inward rather than outward. I don't even know how to make that tangible because it's such an abstract idea.
Well, what if we do it with something that's if you're open to it, something that like a recurring thought that you have, for example, that is very body centric. Do you have something that you constantly think that you're like, why do I still think like this archaic way of thinking?
My terrible thoughts are all around fatness. Like, my jeans are too tight, my waist is not narrow enough, my arms are too wobbly, my eyelids are too voluminous of skin, things like that really don't serve me, and that I pray my children don't inherit.
And isn't it interesting how much of our lives we spend making ourselves wrong instead of making ourselves right?
Right.
And if we look at our bodies as constantly in communication and in connection and in relationship to us, and we said, what if my body was responding in the exact right way it should, given the stimulus that I'm giving it? So when I binge, and I go on a binge cycle, I gain weight. And then I get upset with myself for gaining weight. And I also think we can quell ourselves with the fear of gaining weight and of fat, because when you read statistics on how people are treated as fat people, it's terrifying. It is one of the scariest things you can imagine, to the point where they see, would you rather be fat? They play this terrible game. Would you rather be fat or, I don't know, lose $1,000? Would you rather be fat or lose a limb? Would you rather be fat or lose your life? And when I tell you the statistics are scary as to how many people would rather lose a limb,
Oh my God, Erin.
then go back to being, these are people that were once fat, go back to being seen that way.
I had a conversation once with a patient of mine who was put on some hectic psych meds, and some of the antipsychotics, some people are genetically predisposed to putting on very rapid weight with them. And she went from like a size 10 to 6 sizes up, and in a very short period of time. And she spoke about her experience in the world and of how people respond to her, and of how different the experience of the world as a size 10 versus a size 18 or whatever it might have been.
So are you wrong for feeling the way you feel about it?
No, it's congruent, I suppose. But what you've also just said is that your body is so intelligent that when you put too many calories in, it saves those calories. And trusting that intelligence and heeding those cues is an act of devotion, which is
And it's
so powerful.
the whole idea of the law of attraction is that what we think about, where attention goes, energy flows. So if we constantly say, I'm scared of putting fat on my hips, I'm scared of putting fat on my hips, I'm scared of putting fat on my hips, it's not like the fat is magically going to appear. But it's your relationship to food then is, how am I viewing this? Oh, I'm scared. And if you think that your body doesn't respond to your words,
It absolutely
does. And if it responds to your words, it's responding to your thoughts. If your thoughts say that is bad, that's good, then it's saying, if I eat that, I'm bad. If I eat that, I'm good. And that's why I always go back to a plant-based diet with people. Not because it's just for the health benefits, because there are such a crazy load of health benefits, but because that is the most in connection to nature I find myself eating. Because I really challenge people to overeat on beans. And I really challenge people to overeat potatoes. It's the highest food on the satiety scale. And people will demonize potatoes, but those potatoes are so far few less in calories than something like bread, for example. And I'm not saying don't eat the bread. I'm not demonizing bread either. I'm just saying that if the majority of your food came from natural earth foods, and every time you ask yourself, is this food going to make me fat? Why don't you just trust that anything from the earth is there to heal and not harm you? And it's already equipped with just the right amount of fiber and nutrients to help your body know when to stop. Think about something like pineapple, like you can't overeat pineapple. Or even something that's a little bit more processed, like peanut butter. Real 100%, like the butternut brand that's literally just 100% peanuts. It, kind of has that feeling to it. When we are really spending our time back in the kitchen, cooking foods that are not from the center of the grocery aisle, but from the outsides of the grocery aisle, your life does seem to take a little bit of an easier turn in terms of being able to connect back with the body. So even if you're just doing it to connect back with the body, I think it's such a beautiful practice. And I think along that way, you will fall so in love with the benefits of being able to recover quicker and sleep better.
Make a poo every day.
Make a poo every single day, that you will just say to yourself, actually, this lifestyle's quite worth it for me. And this becomes your new standard. It's not all the time, but just 80%. And it's so much easier than people think to eat plant-based 80% of the time, because you vote with your dollar. And so if that's what you're demanding from grocery stores, that's what they're going to provide more of. Look at Woolworths, how it's transforming for the plant-based scene. Unfortunately, a lot of processed things. So you have to still use your, kind of decisive eyes and say, I'm not going to vote for the processed things. I'm going to vote for as unprocessed as possible, the salads or whatever it is that you're aiming towards eating more of.
I just wanted to loop back to that, what you were saying about your cells really hearing your thoughts. I was reading about open label placebo studies this weekend. And I didn't even realize that there were open label placebo studies where they tell you, I am giving you a placebo to treat your hot flush, or I am giving you a placebo to improve your mood. And there's total transparency.
And it still works.
Which is so wild and is so indicative of the power of how we think about ourselves and are in communication with ourselves. Tell me about nutrient deficiencies. Is that something that you supplement for, or do you just eat enough pulses and your gut health is so good that you are not iron deficient?
I'm very lucky in the way that because I studied nutrition and I've eaten this way for so long, that I really think my gut started singing when I started this lifestyle, that the last bloods I did were quite some time ago, probably a good 4 years ago, but everything was perfect. And I haven't had any reasons to believe otherwise, other than right now I'm having a bit of period issues, but there was nothing wrong with my iron when I tested that last quite recently, so that's not the issue. But the things that I absolutely do supplement for are creatine, not because of veganism, but just because I think every woman should be on it. I take creatorine because taurine is also an amino acid that plant-based eaters don't necessarily get a lot of. Then I do take a B12 supplement. Again, that I think everybody should be on, because B12 we obviously get from the soil, and our animals are not eating the soil. And so even animals are not a good source of B12 for you. They are feedlot animals. Then omega-3s, I just use a flaxseed one. That's another one that I think everyone should be on. You can definitely let me know if that's a good option from a doctor point of view. And magnesium glycinate I take before bed. And again, I feel the difference, and I'm like, is this placebo? Is this just me?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, feels really good to me, and I make sure that my husband takes as well. So that's the kind of supplement stack that I see for myself, but when I'm working with other people, I actually find more over, again, the pendulum swing, more that we are either suffering from overnutrition or they are eating a lot of empty calories and it feels like their cells are starving for the right kinds of nutrients. In which case, I would love everyone that feels like they have been really restrictive with themselves to maybe go on something like a greens powder, where it's just, you get such great ones on the market. So I don't want to pick out any certain.
Do you want to pick 3?
Okay, the Metagenics,
okay.
Phytoganics.
Okay.
It's very expensive.
I was about to say that's for those of you who can afford it.
Yeah, but I just make my own ones, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
So there is one from Terra Nova. They're also a really cool plant-based brand that I've seen come up. So they have like a Life Force drink. So that's also, but I mean, even in the Phytoganics, like I've had my Phytoganics one, I was gifted it by Dr. Rav. And I mean, this was, sheesh, when I did Ironman last year. And I also just take it like as I need it, and I'll only take a half scoop. So it's not something that you need to be having every day, unless you are like, we're working together and you're in a protocol and I've noticed you've really been restricting, then I'm going to say, let's do this every day. But if you're going to make your own stack, you can go to somewhere like Discam, you can go to any big warehouse that's got health foods. And I'm looking for spirulina, I'm looking for alfalfa is really great. I'm looking for astragalus would be really nice to have in there. Chlorella would be really nice to have in there. Wheatgrass. And if you can find one that combines all of them, I mean, I think Soaring Free Superfoods, they do a nice one, I think combines 4 or 5 of them. But I just do my own mixes and then I actually just gift them to people.
Tell us more about Ironman.
Ooh, that was a redefining possible moment for me, for sure.
Have you done more than one?
No.
And would you do it again?
Now that I've healed from the emotional pain, because I'm not a cyclist, and you are required to put hours and hours and hours onto the bike. I think that's what nobody really talks about in terms of the training, is that you can't be having a social life and be training for Ironman. Like, you have to dedicate your whole life to it. And I could not swim. I had to go to learn to swim school.
You mean you didn't know how to swim?
I still can't dive in a pool. Like, I can't dive. I don't know how people can just, it feels so scary. Yeah, I didn't have stroke. All I could do was like float in the pool. I had to learn how to
do stroke
and how to move at a relatively okay pace.
And how did you feel afterwards?
I cried.
With relief
with relief
or triumph? Or
and triumph.
Both.
I think the biggest triumph for me was that I did it my way. And so not once did I did one small triathlon at Stain City, which I would not recommend for anyone. It was so hard. That was harder for me than the Ironman, was that Stain City triathlon.
And does your husband do such extreme sport?
He did one. He did an Ironman before. And so when I said I was going to do it, he was like, okay, I'm not doing it with you. And his sister, though, my sister-in-law, she just finished another one, her and her husband. So she loves it. She's an Ironman athlete.
Wow.
Because you have to love the journey. And for me, I don't want to put hours on the bike every Sunday. I want to have the most ROI. So I want to put in the least amount of effort and gain the most benefits. And for me, that's strength training every single time, every day of the week. I can do 45 minutes and get the results that I want, whereas Ironman I had to spend 4 hours, and I actually gained a lot of weight during Ironman, which I think is a really interesting thing for people to know as well. Exercise is not the answer for weight loss. And I was running further than I'd ever run. I was cycling like a mad woman, and I was even teaching spinning classes to try and get more hours on the bike and swimming. And then I was doing this all 3, 4, 5 times a week with a full-time job, and I think it was very much a cortisol weight where I was just keeping my body in a very high moving state. And I think it had to hold on to that. And I felt very like puffy in a way, which I think a lot of runners can actually relate to when they're training for something big. But the biggest, I guess, hooray for me from that was it feels a bit like a subhuman feat. Like, it's not something that the human body wants to do naturally. And I did it with absolutely no supplements. No gels, no goos. I did electrolytes, but none of the sugary ones. I did Revive, they're my absolute favorite. And coconut water, that's all I had on my bike. And every time I stopped and people were drinking Coke and the gels, and I was like, my body does not know that. I've never trained with that. I'm just not going to do it. I had baby potatoes, salted potatoes, and a bread roll with like peanut butter and dates. And that is what I did that race on. And I was just so proud. The next day I was not even stiff. My recovery time was phenomenal. While I was doing it, amazing. Like my body just kept going. It was like something else was carrying it, maybe all of the months of training, but I really feel like it was the nourishment and nutrition that I nailed and that I felt really proud of. And I had read Stacey Sims, I was gifted also by Dr. Rav, Stacey Sims' book in preparation for this in the December, and I devoured this book, and I just thought there's a way to do this where I'm not consuming any highly processed foods. And yeah, it's absolutely possible, and I actually think it is so much better for our body. I mean, I did see an athlete that literally had a goo, and he was way faster than me, and literally 200 meters was vomiting up that goo because his body was not used to it. And even at the end of the race, I was so horrified, I even wrote an article about it, that the food choices that they gave us. We have just run and competed this subhuman feat, and you're going to give me pizza
At the end.
yeah, and some unbranded like recovery drink that's just full of dairy. That 70% of the world is lactose intolerant. And these like sachets of coffee and cookies and muffins.
It's like hospital food.
And beer and hospital. Oh, don't get me started on hospital food.
You're just grabbing hospital food.
Yeah, I was really just disappointed. I wrote them an article and I was like, from people who claim to be, redefining possible, redefine your diets. Like, this is ridiculous. Show people what it must be like. If you want the industry to change, be part of the industry that changes things.
What are your thoughts on fasting? I know that there is so much at the moment about girls not fasting. And I don't have a particularly strong view on it either way, but I do have a few patients who had a really transformative experience with fasting. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I'm a big fan
Okay.
of fasting. And I think it can work for a lot of women to quiet food noise. And I'm not talking about fasting for any specific amount of time, because I think all of the new research that's come out has shown us that it is different for women. I do understand, especially now having been more intuitive with my body, the importance of not fasting before my period, for example, because that always leads into a binging cycle. But for myself, that's working really hard in the morning with like brain work and really needing focus, I feel amazing when I fast.
And so what do you do? 16-8?
I don't
You don't count.
have a number any. I really go based on my body. But I would say 16-8 is probably the most common one that I had for most of my fasting life. And what I also do is sometimes I know that I have an early morning and I do feel better when I train with something. And I think a protein coffee really works well for me, because I know that cortisol, when I have just the coffee, I get a little bit wiry. But if I add just a little bit of something to it, then I feel quite great. And so what I might do is I might stop eating much earlier in the day. Not early, I mean like people are eating, 7, 8, 9 at night when they're getting back from work. And so I might say 3, 4, 5 o'clock. Maybe 5 o'clock is a good time for me. I'll count kind of backwards that way. And then I'll say, and then I can eat at 6 the next morning. And then that's, 13 hours, and I'm quite happy with that. Whereas other days I'll feel myself getting really anxious around food. And I'll say, Erin, you just need to take a beat. I'll say, just give me a break, go and get yourself busy and come back in 3 hours. And if I feel myself getting really hungry, then I'll have a safe foods list that I'll eat from those safe foods. Cucumbers, celery, I'll snack on things like that, a protein shake. That all feels really safe for me without maybe sending me into a spiral. But I must also say that fasting is definitely not for everyone. I think there is a select few that it works really well for. And I think it works well for the longevity benefits. I think it works really well to quiet the food noise. But if you're using it for a weight loss tactic, if you're losing weight, you're going to find it some way. I just think it's anything you're doing just purely for weight loss is always going to be a diet. And diets have never worked. Not a single diet has ever worked, because you always gain the weight back and you always come to a nutritionist asking for another diet. And then when I say to them I don't do diets, then they say, I don't know what to tell you. That's what I want. I want you to tell me exactly what to eat. And I say, as long as you keep outsourcing your body's innate knowledge to other people, you're going to keep being disconnected from the body. And so fasting is as personal a choice. It's saying, how do I feel anxious when I don't eat? Or do I feel empowered and my brain's working really well and I can think really fast and I can be really structured? Because if it's anxious and hungry and irritable, by all means you need to eat.
So much wisdom, Erin.
And there's lots of different ways to fast. What if you just did, for example, a lot of people have bingy days on Sundays. And so I'm still working on this with myself. So disclaimer, I haven't gotten it right. So I tried to say, what if I have like a fasting, mimicking a fasting day, and the fasting is just like a 5-2 where you eat your as normal for 5 days, and then 2 days you kind of focus a little bit more. And so for me, Sundays and Mondays are my particularly triggering days. So then I might say, okay, what we're going to do then is I'm going to go to gym and we're going to have a coffee and then we're going to have a lovely lunch and then we're going to say that was lovely. And then the next morning I'll eat again as normal. So that's another way. You can just say the day that you're feeling really triggered, what if you were able to put some really loving boundaries for yourself just around that day and bring your partner in. Let them know what's going on in your mind. And it doesn't mean as soon as that hunger comes up, you have to honor that hunger and say, what is it that's coming up for me? Okay, I am truly hungry. It's 6 p.m. and I feel like if I don't eat now, tomorrow's going to be a mess. I have no ego in it. Then I'm going to say, absolutely, okay, let's make ourselves a salad. That's going to feel really light. Let me make myself a broth. That's going to feel really nourishing. And then again, letting my partner in, I'm feeling a little bit bingy here. I just need you to say, after this, can we go do something fun? Can we go for a walk? Okay, yeah, we're going to eat this. We're going to put this away. We're going to clean up the kitchen and go for a walk. Okay, let's go do that. So that could be another, fasting can also be fasting from highly processed foods, fasting from negative talks. I'm a negative self-talk. I'm a big fan of fasting for showing you what's possible on the other side of what you feared. People fear hunger. What if you embraced hunger? People fear no coffee. What if you tried it out? You can always go back. It's that abundance restriction mindset that we're constantly playing with. How can I change the restrictive mindset you have? If I get hungry, I will binge. To what if I don't fear hunger? And I see it as just another natural body cue like heat or needing to wee. I think many women feel that there is no other side. They say, I know what works, and what works is control. What works is tracking on MyFitnessPal and only consuming 1,400 calories. As soon as I try anything else, I gain weight. And then I say, I hear you. Try this other way and gain weight. See if it's the worst thing that's ever happened to you. See if maybe that's the size your body needs to be to heal right now. What if it's not the end of the world? I promise you, I know how to drop weight. I've bodybuilt. I know how to get you to stage lean if you want. So that's not the problem. I can take you there. But can I take you to a place where you look in the mirror and you recognize who you look at? And you say, I see you. I love you, and I'm showing up as someone who loves herself. I eat like someone who loves herself. I move like someone who loves herself. I'm playful because I can be, because I'm present. I'm not thinking about the Christmas lunch. Okay, how many calories are on this plate? Maybe I shouldn't have the bread. What if you took all of that away and you said, I'm sitting down here, and what's my main goal? Connection with everybody else. So is the food the most important part? Is how I look the most important part? And of course, it's easy to say. It's a practice. So I just wish that women knew there was another side, on the other side of their fear. They can't see it because we've never tried it. People will be like, I could never go plant-based. You're probably right. With that attitude, you're 100% right. I could never give up. I could go vegan, but except for cheese. Okay, go vegan except for cheese. No. What about the milk? Go vegan except for cheese and milk. No. Do you see what I mean? And so get curious about what's possible for you.
It sounds I feel excited listening to you. I really do. I feel so excited. Where can people find you or make an appointment or book a consultation with you?
I'm probably most active on Instagram, Conscious Catherine. People don't know how to spell conscious. C-O-N-S-C.
I'm going to put it in the show notes.
Okay, great. And that's, the consciousness comes obviously because my whole goal is for people to live awake and live conscious. I can teach you how to eat. I can teach you how to train. I can teach you how to meditate, whatever that lifestyle looks for you. But the most important thing is that you find that version of it for yourself. So I would say you can reach out there. My contact details are also on there. And then every Jan I have challenges, so then that'll be up on my website. Yeah.
So if anybody's ready to begin again, now's the moment.
To begin and never stop. That's the thing. If you come with me, I'm not going to let you stop. You've got to make that life choice, and I want to see you become a new person. I mean, isn't it Joe Dispenza that said, like, if you want a new personal reality, you have to change your personality. People say, how can I change my personality? But your personality is just an accumulation of your habits. It's just an accumulation of things you repeatedly do, which are so changeable. And you can't do it all at once. That's why you have someone that says, let's go 2 things at a time. And I'm just going to keep you accountable for that. Shouldn't I do 3? No, I said 2. Calm down. You're just doing 2.
Erin's the boss.
Yeah. Let me take this load for you. And you don't have to think about it. But can I also ask you if there's anything you think would be really beneficial for the woman that you see on a day-to-day basis, like a quick tool that I could give them that they could walk away with and say, oh, I feel better about X.
I think the thing that's topical for me at the moment in practice is perimenopause and menopause. And it's just a fact that things slow down as you creep towards between sort of 45 and 50. And our fat redistributes.
Yeah, all around the belly.
Yes, and it's really difficult and it doesn't always move. And so maybe some words of wisdom for those women who are listening. And the other thing we haven't spoken about is Ozempic and Mounjaro and the GLP-1 drugs. So we don't have to go there, but if you want to, we can.
First on the peri and menopause. Whew. What a time of your life to suddenly have everything the world valued most about you taken away. That's what it is. And that's what you have to hold. All that control you spent your entire life fighting for, now it's gone. And it is now more important than ever to find that relationship with yourself again. To choose to now show up, even when the scale's not budging, even when nothing's working, to say, I'm still going to show up like someone who loves herself. And I'm going to do what research, because the research on women has been so limited. And so we can only take now, thank God the research has just exploded for women. Let's take the latest research. And you just show up as that person as much as you can with the help of someone who is supporting you emotionally through this time, because it is incredibly hard. Your hormones are all over the place. I mean, your incidence of divorce increases, of leaving your job increases.
Depression, anxiety,
if you feel like you're
insomnia.
going crazy, you are. It's happening. And to be able to speak openly about it, to have someone walk the journey with you, and to have someone who works in this field to say, I'm going to walk you through these steps on the days that you don't feel like it, because you are going to come out the other side. And so many women, all of the women do come out on the other side, and eventually the weight does budge. And eventually they do come back to themselves, and they do fall back in love with their life and their husbands and their work. But it is a journey that you have to walk through. You have to see it as this really dark tunnel.
Or just a catalyst for deep transformation.
Finally letting go. I mean, that's what they see. They say it's the era of the crone. I get goosebumps when I think about it. Where you finally release everything that the world valued on you, and you can finally be the person that you were before all of these labels, expectations, and conditioning was put on you. What if that's what this journey's about? What if you're like, oh, you don't like me in this skin? Well, guess what? This is the skin I'm in, and I'm still showing up to strength train, because I know that how much muscle I have in my body directly correlates with how long I'm going to live. And best believe this wisdom needs to be passed down to my grandchildren. Best believe. What if that's the opportunity?
Thank you, Erin. You're a little light, not a little light, a large light.
Oh.
It was so beautiful to share space with you, and I hope this is the first conversation of many.
Yes, me too. Thank you. Such a special place.
This podcast is made possible by the generous support of Health with Heart, Health with Heart, my real day job, is a corporate wellness business bringing integrative, holistic, whole-person medicine to organizations through education, ergonomics, screening, and on-site medical services. If you are a business of 50 or more people, we would so love to connect with you and see how we can elevate the well-being of all of your people, your greatest asset.
Health with Heart with Dr. Skye.